Hi folks, I'm Bob Main. Welcome to another episode of the Handgun World podcast. This is episode 594 to be exact, being released on May 22nd, 2022. Thanks for tuning in. This is one of the best things I get to do all week. And I do these, I like to release these on Sundays. Sometimes I record a little bit before that, but it's kind of like wrapping up my week in a positive style and starting off the next week on a positive note. So that's why I like to do it. Thank you for tuning in. This show is brought to you by Keepers Concealment, the absolute leading authorities. I'm sorry I didn't bring a Keepers holster with me at this time while I'm doing this show. I was carrying in a Keepers holster yesterday, appendix carry. They are excellent, folks. They are excellent. And not only are their holsters great, but you should check out Spencer Keepers himself. He's a great shooter. He's a great trainer. I've taken a couple of his classes. He's also an affiliate of CCW Safe, legal protection you need to have if you carry a gun. There are two fights in a self-defense encounter. The first fight is using your tool, which would be your gun, using your tool to save your life, okay? The second fight is the legal fight afterwards to be able to go home to your family and not go to jail. Check out CCW Safe. And if you use the link that I provide below this video and in the show notes for the audio podcast, it'll take you right there. Your coupon code is KC10OFF. KC10 off. That gets you a discount. And if you want a discount on any of the Keepers holsters, all you have to do is use one word, and that word is Handgun World. And that gets you a discount. This is a practical show, and I am your practical host. So, this week, I love to talk about listeners and listener emails. And so that's what I want to get started on here. So let me check my inbox. I want to start talking about some of the emails that I have been getting from my listeners. Jim is the first one I want to talk about. Jim R. sent me an email and he said, "Hello, Bob. I'm a big fan and I enjoyed your most recent podcast with John Payne. I took particular interest in your discussion of prohibited places to carry a firearm under Texas law. John's apparent belief is that as a retired police officer, he is restricted the same way a license to carry person is. I do not believe that that's the case. Texas Penal Code 46.15 exempts retired police officers from the list of prohibited places." Again, I'll say that. Texas Penal Code 46 exempts retired peace officers from the list of prohibited places. An honorably retired peace officer or other qualified retired law enforcement officer who holds a certificate of proficiency and is carrying a photo identification that's issued by federal, state, or local law enforcement as applicable, and that verifies that that officer is honorably retired peace officer or other qualified retired law enforcement officer. So, Jim, thank you for correcting that. If you are a retired peace officer in Texas, you're not prohibited as a licensed to carry instructor. A license to carry person is prohibited. So perhaps that's a slight error that we made. I've been wrong before on my podcast. Not very often. I'm just joking, okay? I get things wrong occasionally. I admit it. Maybe John was thinking of something else. I don't know. I'll reach out to him. He listens to this show. Maybe he will respond, but I'll reach out to him and see what his response is. But I definitely wanted to share that with you from Jim R. Another email that came in that I think is something that's kind of Well, this is a good response. Scott, who likes to respond, Scott from Virginia, I believe, who likes to respond. He said, your episode was right on point. He was talking about episode 592, where I was basically mentioning that words mean things. People forget that words have meaning, and the anti-gun people have learned to control the narrative. What a great point that is, controlling the narrative. This is what politicians do. They make a living at controlling the narrative. The anti-gun people do too. We cannot let them continue to control the narrative. We have to do it. Pro-gun people. Even conservative groups use gun violence as a term, Scott says. Yeah, he's right. You're right, Scott. Even I just heard it. Who was it? Somebody else was. It was a Republican. It was a Republican running for in a Republican primary recently, running for Senate, I believe, United States Senate. And he used the word gun violence. And he says, we need more public speakers and less camo. Scott from Virginia, that's very, very true. Nothing is more accurate than what you said. Why do we have people who supposedly, politicians mostly, who are supposedly pro-gun, using the term gun violence? Gun violence does not exist, as I mentioned last week. Guns don't commit violence on their own. This firearm, this Shadow Systems DR920 Elite, my favorite pistol that I own, it does not commit violence. This is an inanimate object. It's a machine. Okay? It doesn't have a mind of its own. It doesn't have a personality. It does not commit violence. Whoever uses these tools commits violence. Got a question for you. How about my pocket knife? Can I commit violence with my knife? What do you think? Yeah, I can commit violence with my pocket knife. It's not a gun. But again, it's me committing violence with that tool. What about my flashlight? What about my pocket flashlight? This is a Streamlight. Let's see here. Can't read the model number on it because I don't have my glasses on. It's a Streamlight pocket flashlight. There it is. ProTech 2LX. Can I commit violence with this? Yes, I can. I can commit violence. This is a blunt object. If I know what I'm doing and I've taken a little bit of training with it, I can put a hurt on somebody. I can commit violence. I don't. You guys know I'm not a violent person. That's not me. Okay, I am not a violent person. Violent people use tools to commit violence, but we should not call it gun violence. Scott from Virginia. That's a great email. I'm glad that you sent that to me. I'm looking for another one here. The same Scott from Virginia also commented, and he was talking about the recent interview I did with Ben Branham. He said, the training mistakes I see are people who practice skills which they already perform well. Wow, let's talk about that. Practicing skills you already perform well. Just the other day, Spencer Keepers put a video on Facebook. Follow him on Facebook if you haven't. He set a personal best in one of his drills. I think it was like 1.75 seconds or something crazy like that. 5 rounds. And I can't do that. Wow, I can't even consistently break 3 seconds in that drill that Spencer Keepers does. More like it's usually around 4 to 4.5 seconds for me. I need a whole lot more practice. So I can't perform that skill extremely well. I keep practicing that. I like to practice what I cannot do well, because that's why I need the practice. I can't do it well. For a lot of us, it seems to be easy to practice what we do well because it's fun. It makes us feel good. It's self-gratifying. If we're showing off to some friends, it makes it a lot easier to show off what you're doing, right? Because, hey, look at this. You know, bang, 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 bang. Look at those holes I just made in the target. Okay? And we slow fire. Boom. Oh, look at that. Look where I hit. And we slow down. Boom! Oh, okay, half an inch from the last time. And we slow down again. Boom! Look at that, another half inch. And that's what's fun, but you know what? That's not training. That's not practicing. You know, that's not even developing any skills. You're doing something that you can already do. So Scott said, your step-up drill works well. And I added time component, draw to completion in 3.5 seconds, which is easy for one shot, not so easy for 5, especially if you use a 3x5 index card. My step-up drill, check it out. It's a modified version of Spencer Keeper's drill. And go to my Patreon page for those of you who are Patreon supporters. If you're not, there's a link below this video or in the show notes for this audio podcast. You can support me, and you can support me for as little as $3 a month and check out some of these drills that I have on my Patreon page. And I'm glad that Scott has taken that and he's made it his own. See, I want you to internalize the information that I cover on this show. Make it your own. Internalize it. Customize it for yourself. He's added a time element to it. So basically my drill is draw one shot on target. Carefully and reluctantly reholster. Draw 2 shots on target. Carefully reholster. And keep doing that 3 shots, 4 shots, and 5 shots. You know, and I try to pick up the pace. And when I do that drill over and over and over again, I like what Scott says, adding the time component is going to make it harder for me. And so I like to practice that because in my opinion, the only way you build skill is to practice something that's difficult for you to do. And that is a stretch. Okay? You have to be able to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. That's the most important thing, I think, is don't be afraid to fail. See, failure is really nothing but a learning experience. You can laugh about your failure. You know, you can kind of be humorous about your failure, and you can learn. And it's an opportunity to practice. It's an opportunity to be able to find out what your limit is. You definitely need to know what your limit is. And if you don't know what it is, practice harder, train a little harder, and figure out what that limit is. Okay, so let's get to another email. I think I am going to talk about one more. Let's see if I can find that real quick. And one guy, Randy, sent me a picture of his wife's Glock 42 because I was talking about that several weeks back. Go back and listen to that recent episode at handgunworld.com or wherever you get your podcasts. You can find at handgunworld.com. You can find all my older episodes. Wherever you get your podcasts, I think you can probably find like the last 100 or the last 150 podcasts. Okay. I think for now, for this segment, that's probably all I'm going to cover as far as emails that have recently come to me. Let me just say this also. Let's start controlling the narrative. I just talked about this a little earlier in the episode. Let's control the narrative. I believe those of us who are advocates of the Second Amendment, let's start controlling the narrative. Let's get out in front and make our message heard up in front. And let's have good reasoning. Let's have good discussion. Let's have facts on our side. We got to have facts on our side. These tools, these firearms, are used to protect people more every week than they are used to commit violence by people. And notice I did not say gun violence. These are tools. These are used by people to commit violence, but they're also, in larger proportion, used to protect people's lives and the lives of their loved ones. So I'm getting out in front right now, and I'm pointing that out with fact. And let's start controlling that narrative, because I'm sure there's somebody listening to this show right now that is thinking, you know what, where I live way out in the country, I live way out in wherever, the cops are never going to get here if something happens. So I need to provide my own protection. Last week, John Payne and I were talking about places that create their business as a gun-free zone. And whenever an owner does that, whenever a property owner creates their business as a gun-free zone, like here in Texas, for example, putting in the proper signs, now they have taken away my right to protect myself. And I think it would be a smart move for owners, like, for example, if they're a store owner and they want to put the proper signs up in Texas that creates their business to be a gun-free zone, I think it'd be a very smart move for them to provide me some protection while I'm there. We all know what just recently happened in the Buffalo, New York area. What if I'm in a store here in San Antonio and somebody decides they're going to come in the store and start shooting? Where's my protection? If the store owner wants to prohibit me from using this tool to protect myself, then where are the people that are going to protect me if something bad happens in the store? Where are they? Why isn't the owner providing that for me? Because I have a right to life. I have a right to live. And if I'm in that situation where a mass shooter comes into the grocery store where I'm buying some food, I have a right to defend myself if I am allowed to carry the proper tools. But if I'm not allowed to carry the proper tool, then where's my protection? Where is the armed security guard at the door who is willing to fight back? Hopefully that armed security guard's not a FUD. Hopefully he or she is willing to intervene and do something and shoot back and take out that bad guy before he shoots me and several other people in the store. So I want you to think about that. I think that they should provide a basic level of protection if they're going to make their premises a gun-free zone. What do you think? I'd like to hear your comments. You guys know I'm very open-minded. I would like to hear your comments. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Put a comment below this video. Put a comment on Facebook or on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on a couple of others. I always put a link up for each one of these shows, even on my website at handgunworld.com. You can put, or you can send me an email, like some emails I just covered today from some excellent listeners. So I'd like to hear what you say. That's the end of segment 1. There's more to this show. This concludes segment 1. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. For those of you watching this on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, check out the links below. My sponsors, Keepers Concealment and Concealment Solutions. Support me on Patreon. There's a link down there, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening. Next segment coming right up after a short break.